I don't really know what I'm going to say, so I'll just waffle a bit while we look at pictures. Okay, so my name's Josh Crocking. I'm an artist. I'm a full-time painter. And all the images you see here are oil paintings on either canvas or aluminium. I guess I'll talk a bit about just where I've come from and what I'm doing now and where I think I hope it's going. So I graduated from fine art school back in 2000, majoring in painting, and based in Melbourne. And like a lot of artists, unfortunately, depends on your point of view, but I ended up taking the route of teaching, which is where a lot of artists go, unfortunately, after art school, mainly for financial reasons. But the benefit of that was that it afforded me travel and life experience, and to be an effective artist, I think you need a bit of life experience under your belt. I first came to the Kimberley in 2007, and that was the year that in the NT, in the Northern Territory, the All the Children are Sacred report came out, and there was the army intervention in remote communities. And at the time, I didn't know a lot about Indigenous Australia, and everyone in Melbourne had an opinion about the intervention. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with an opinion on social or humanitarian issues. But it occurred to me at the time that most of the opinions were coming from people that had never met an Indigenous person, let alone been to a remote community. And for me at the time, that idea wasn't good enough, so I just wanted to go and find out for myself what remote Indigenous Australia was. So I left a comfortable job in St Kilda in Melbourne as a school teacher and moved to Halls Creek in 2007. And I was out in remote communities for 5 years before moving to Broome. And after teaching for a couple of years there, I decided it was time to return to my full-time practice as an artist, as a painter. And those experiences in remote communities really galvanised my experiences of who I was as a person and where I think contemporary Australia is going. And the best way I could talk about those ideas and communicate them was through painting, which was my first love, my first passion, as much as I don't like using that word too much. And so my work talks about ideas on ritual and colonisation and the clash of culture and nature. On the clash of culture and nature, that clash can be beautiful and it can be brutal. The beauty can be as simple as a city's parklands, but nature can also be weaponised. Think of disease blankets given to our First Nations peoples, or think of refugees on Manus or Nauru who refer to the jungle as green hell. So nature as an isolation tool and nature as a psychological implement of torture. And so it's these ideas about humanity versus nature, or the technosphere versus the biosphere that influenced my work quite a lot. I don't really consider myself a particular environmental or a particular social activist artist. The reason for that being that I think good art should suggest ideas for the viewer, but it shouldn't tell them what to think. So I don't want my work to be too didactic or too literal. I want the work to suggest ideas to the viewer about what the work potentially could be about, but it's important that the viewer comes up to their own conclusions about what they think the work is about. But it's important that the work first captures the viewer's imagination. The work must first make the audience stop and look and think without telling them what to think. Once you have that engagement between the work and the viewer, that's when art becomes important and effective, and that's where art can make a difference. It just requires a bit of patience on the idea, on the side of the viewer. So for me, it's a funny thing. when I went to art school back in 2000 and I graduated, I didn't really know what to talk about. I didn't really have a voice as a visual artist, and it took some time and some life experience to work out what it was I wanted to try and talk about. And it's an interesting thing. The art industry is a very social one, and it requires a lot of presence. And in this country, it's very East Coast based. It's very Melbourne and Sydney, which ultimately requires the artist to share the same space as other artists and the industry. It requires the same life experiences. Everyone's living in the same suburbs, but then it asks for everyone to have their own individual voice and take on the world. And I think those two are a bit contradictory. For me, it's important to live an individual life and to experience things differently and try and communicate those ideas through visual art. So I hope that's where the work is going. In a lot of my work, you'll see these highly reflective surfaces that keep reappearing, and for me, the idea of this highly manufactured or mechanical surface reflecting the colours of nature is an interesting sort of pictorial trope of the other in a foreign space. So you could see that reflective surface as a foreign entity, or the other either reflecting and working with its surroundings or its ecology, or you could see that foreign object as rejecting or working against its surroundings. God, that went quick. That's it.